Hi, Kyle. We're going to take a look at your film number 2. So we'll just jump right in and check it out. So I'll just start playing. I know this is more of a meditative piece, I will kind of talk a little bit about composition and things like that. We had a bit of a conversation during the studio critique, and I'll try not to sort of reiterate those things and offer some other observations. One thing I am noticing just right off the bat is there's a little bit of a thing right here. If you can see that on the, let me pull this away. You can see that right on there. That may have something to do with something on your lens, just a piece of dust or something like that. Let's keep an eye on that. See if it moves or goes away. Sometimes you can't see those sort of things with when you have texture and things like that, but on a blue sky, when you see stuff like that, it usually is identifying that the camera might be a little dirty, that kind of thing. See, it's hard to see if it's still there. I think this backlit shot, the sun could be a little bit farther over here so that we're not getting too much glare over there. But this backlit shot, to me, is much more satisfying than this broadly lit shot. So we have two different kinds of shots going on here in the beginning. You have this, it's called broad lighting, where the light is coming from behind you. And that has to do with broad, meaning the broad side or the front of the footage. And then this being from the side has to do with what's called short lighting. And as you can see, it creates this short highlight on the edges of the tree. Now, this short lighting will create a much more of an emotive quality to what it is that we're looking at as compared to the broad lighting. And so when you're talking about wanting to evoke a kind of an emotive quality to the work, you're definitely wanting to think about those kinds of things, whether you're dealing with broad lighting or short lighting. And when you're outside, you really can't, you have to wait or position yourself in such a way that allows you for that. So when you're dealing with footage like this, where you're meant to just sort of sit back and absorb the atmosphere. I think we talked about this before with your piece with the water. It really comes down to every little detail, and it does come back to something like this, where we're looking at where the lighting is positioned very specifically. Also, what is it that we're really concerned with? Is it the image of the trees, or is it the sound of the wind? I think it's the sound of the wind, and that the trees are simply there to offer this sort of contrast to that. So I did mention that I think we could have come in a little bit more so on those trees and allowed them to be take up a lesser part of the image. Definitely we have something on your lens there. So again, a shot like this where we're much more of a short lighting shot, where the light is coming from the side a little bit more. It's starting to get a little bit to the front, but it's more to the side here. You can tell that this has a much more of an emotive quality to it than if the lighting was coming directly from the front. Lighting, video is photography. It just happens to be photography that's moving at 24 frames a second. And so photography is all about light. And so light is your medium when you're dealing with this, combined with sound. So pay very close attention. If you're moving into this kind of presentation, the quality of light is paramount. It's everything to your piece. Formal choices are what you're relying on to contribute to the content of your work. So that is all you're really considering when you're looking at this. And so you're pretty much just investing everything into those things. So be very, very critical about those things. When you're setting up the shot, exercise every last formal consideration that you have. Rely on the formal principles of design. Shape, balance, texture, color, all of those things, and use them to their fullest. In other words, use them so that the audience will get exactly what you're trying to communicate. Is it sort of a peace and pastoral feeling you're trying to communicate? Is it energy? Is it fluidity? Is it an organic feel? Is it a very graphic and harsh feel that you're trying to show? What are those things, and how can you use the principles of design to communicate them? When you're dealing with a formal treatment, the way you're presenting this, that's what you're considering. So. I'm wondering, as I'm looking at these, I'm wondering if it might also be an interesting idea to very, very slowly and take a long time, almost, just make them almost invisibly blend and fade each image into each other, so that it's almost as if you're not even aware of the transitions. They just sort of happen from one image to the other, from one piece to the next. This would work if you were if you were closer to the images, because you wouldn't have things like this extra piece over here. When I say a long time, like taking like 30 seconds to transition from one image to another, and then as that one fully completes, there's only maybe a few seconds between that and the next one starting to transition, so that there isn't a jolt between one and the other. Just an idea, just a thought to experiment with. As you're going, if we want to kind of create this fluidity like the wind doesn't just stop and start. The wind sort of does that. It sort of flows like that. Might be an interesting thing to experiment with, just to see how it compares or contributes to your content. Again, a formal treatment that might lend itself to the content of your work. I'm always, surprised at how windy it is out here in Colorado. It just comes out of nowhere sometimes, doesn't it? Here, as we get darker and more ominous and that kind of thing, it's kind of interesting. I do appreciate that these images are transitioning. They're not all the same in cloudy blue day. You're getting into these deep clouds and the shadows and things. So you are going somewhere with this. It's not just a monotonous thing on there. I would also consider leaving the titles either on just pure black, meaning having the title not overlapping the image, so that you can use this as an installation kind of piece. Because when you do have it over here, it prohibits you from the loop, from creating this and looping it, because you would always be sort of jarred, taken out of the loop by having this, this title pop up. So if you have the titles before, you can kind of allow that to sort of act as a resting point for your eyes. So that might be another thing to consider. So that's what I have. I think these have a lot of potential. I like the direction that you're taking, the first one, and then this one, the second one. Very much interested to see where you're going with your third piece, and what your presentation this afternoon might be on your final work. So we will see you in the studio. All right. Bye-bye now.